Hey y'all, welcome to episode 1 of the Breakfast Buffet podcast. Before we dive in, since this is episode 1, I figured it would be a good time to tell you why I'm starting a podcast, what this podcast is going to look like over the episodes, kind of the general flow, and just what we're doing here. I'm not going to go too much in depth on that right now because that is the main topic of today's show. We'll get into that a little bit later, but I'll talk about, my hopes for this show, the reason that I'm taking the time to do this type of content when I've never done it before, and just in general, the benefits I think of shooting or filming something, just in general, the benefits of making this type of content in 2026. There's a billion podcasts already. It's very saturated. Why take the time to do this? We'll talk about all that in a minute, but for now, let's talk about the flow of this show. So like a lot of other podcasts you listen to, it's going to be separated into segments, and you can find all the time codes down below. The segments so far are not locked in. This is episode 1. I'm very open to the buffet menu changing. Maybe when we want to bring in a little bit of Eggs Benedict one day, a little bit of powdered sugar French toast. Nothing is set in stone yet. Hopefully by episode 10, 15, we have kind of a consistent list of segments that we're covering, but we'll see what happens. If there's something specific that you're enjoying, let me know in the comments down below. And then, of course, if there's something I'm enjoying talking about, those will be kind of the parameters. That's going to be kind of what I measure what segments stay and what segments go. Along with that, there will always be a main topic, kind of the meat of the video. That may be a guest coming in and sitting down with me and talking about certain things, or it will just be like today, a solo, me talking to y'all about a certain topic. Again, today that is, why am I starting a podcast in 2026? What are the benefits of that? What are my hopes? What are my goals for that? But for fear of talking about making a podcast for an hour instead of actually making a podcast for an hour, I'm going to run through the segments and then we'll actually get into what the heck we're doing here. So the way it's going to flow today is segment 1, the intro. We're in it right now. Can you feel it? We're in it. Segment 2, and I don't have clever titles for a lot of these. Some of them I do, but the mainstay ones, I'll brand them with like a catchy title. But for now, they're just going to be called what they are. And segment 1 is movie reviews. So in this segment, I'll go over a movie or a show or a piece of media I've seen lately, talk about it, from a filmmaker and from a consumer standpoint, because that's kind of how I watch media. I'll talk about the cinematography and the lighting and the writing and the pacing and those kind of like armchair director things. And also I'll talk about it just from a consumer standpoint of how much I enjoyed it, how much I thought that's a good show. It's a good movie. So that should be really fun. I've got some fun. The segment after that is going to be the Hot Stack Studios update, sponsored by Hot Stack Studios, which is where we're at right now. Hot Stack Studios is the production company I own, and that segment will be me going over one, kind of the physical studio build out that I'm sitting in right now, progress we're making on that, if we're getting bookings, kind of events and shoots we're having in the studio. But more than that, it will be just an update on the business. How is running a production company going? Are you am I hiring anyone? What cool jobs have I done recently? Kind of these are the shoots I did last week. These are the shoots I'm hired to do next week. Just an overall check-in on the business side of things to see how that's going. Just threw up in my mouth a little bit. The next segment is called AIDK. Very clever. If you're watching right now, you can see me making shapes with my hands. AIDK. IDK, what I'm doing. Essentially, this segment is me looking at news and new tools and new uses for AI. In the creative world and the production world, AI is a very hot topic, and there are a lot of people that love it, and there are a lot of people that hate it. This segment is for me to figure out kind of where I stand and really just chat out with y'all how I'm feeling about certain AI tools. Whose jobs are they stealing today, and what tools are out there that really I should be using, but something inside of me is saying like, ooh, that feels kind of icky. Ultimately, I need a sounding board to talk out my thoughts on AI, and I thought y'all might be interested in hearing that as well. After that, we'll get into the main portion of the podcast, which I've already said 3 times today, is why I'm starting a podcast in 2026. And then And then we'll jump into the Q&A segment of the show. For this time around, I just posted an Instagram story and gathered questions from there. But moving forward, the Q&A section will be pulled from comments or reviews left on this podcast. So if you have any questions, literally about anything, doesn't have to be creative, doesn't have to be production, literally can be about anything, leave a review, leave a comment, and maybe we'll get around to your question in the next episode. After that, I'm going to do an active project or upcoming project update. This is going to be going over any projects I have going on for the YouTube channel, any personal projects, short films, anything that's not work related but is still an artistic project I have going on. So at the very least, that will be, hey, look out for this. I'm making this and releasing this soon. And then sometimes it may be literally us sitting down together and having a brainstorming session, talking through my notes, talking through my writings. And that is a big theme of this show in general. This is where you're going to get the most unedited, the most uncut, the most genuine version of me. Not to say that I'm not genuine in everything I try to make, but this is the least scripted. This is the most like, there's a thought in my head and I'm saying it. And even to that point, that's not fully, I mean, it's certainly true, but I'm outlining this stuff. I sat down last night and outlined this, so it's not all coming straight off the dome. Some of it certainly is, but I put in a little effort for y'all. But yes, overall, this is the least edited version of me that you're going to find. Okay, let's talk movies. Let's talk shows. So the movie I've seen the most recently was Project Hail Mary. A little bit late on this one. I know it's been a couple weeks. You may have already seen it. Also, just for warning, anything I talk about in this segment will have spoilers. So today I'm going to talk about Project Hail Mary, Daredevil Born Again Season 2, Episode 5, and kind of all of Daredevil, and a little bit of the new Star Wars Maul Shadow Lord show. So just be forewarned, I'm not particularly talking about spoilers, but I'm also not limiting myself from talking about spoilers. And one thing about me is I hate a spoiler. Like, it's not that deep, but also don't spoil stuff in front of me, because I really value media and art and good shows and good movies. There are a lot of not good movies. So whenever a good one comes out, I'm like, please don't spoil it for me. So I don't want to do that for y'all. Let's talk about Project Hail Mary. So if you haven't heard, Project Hail Mary is a new sci-fi movie starring Ryan Gosling. It is overall pretty solid. Let's talk about kind of my pros and cons for it. So first off, incredible visuals. I mean, a stunning, beautiful movie shot by the man, the myth, the legend, Greg Fraser. If you don't know, Greg Fraser is a director of photography famous for The Mandalorian Season 1, easily the best looking season of The Mandalorian, Dune Part 1, 2, and I believe Dune Messiah. I'm not sure. I'll have to check on if he jumped back in for Dune Messiah, but I hope he did, because he makes everything he shoots better. Also, The Batman, starring Robert Pattinson. This guy knows how to make a beautiful image, and with Project Hail Mary, it's no different. I think, honestly, the visuals are probably the best thing about the movie, and that's not to say that the story and the writing aren't good, but I think where this movie ascends into the atmosphere, into the stratosphere, into space, if you will, stunning visual adventure, stunning, like, large, huge, big sci-fi adventure. Also, and I'd have to check on this, apparently they didn't use any green screen in the filming of this. Of course, they used other, like, VFX type tricks. A lot of times productions will say, like, no CGI used, no VFX used, no green screen used. And it's like, I mean, yeah, there certainly was VFX used. There certainly was CGI used. It's maybe just not super blatant. I think they probably didn't film a ton on the volume for this movie, but I'm not going to speculate because I don't honestly exactly know. Let's move on from the visuals and talk about kind of the acting and the writing. The writing is weird because acting-wise, delivery, a lot of the dialogue, it's incredible. I mean, every actor is showing up and doing their absolute best job. It's a very easy movie to watch. It's a very heartwarming, very human movie, which is funny because one of the two main characters is an alien. But even the dialogue between Ryan Gosling and the main alien character is very human, is very real, is very kind of relatable and heartwarming to listen to them talk with each other. All of the delivery, all of the acting is just spot on. And kind of the reason I'm talking in circles around that is the weird thing is that I also have issues with the writing, and kind of the writing and the plot are what stop me from saying this is an instant classic, this is a phenomenal film, which is kind of how it was marketed. It was marketed a little bit as instant classic, new sci-fi hit. This movie is going to be the new like E.T. or the new Star Wars. And of course, saying something is going to be the new Star Wars is very dramatic. They did not say that, and you should never say that because then you're setting up yourself for failure. But that was the general vibe I got from the marketing campaign of this movie. It was like, this is a movie you're going to watch every year. This is a movie you're going to fall in love with. So walking into it, maybe I had a little bit too high expectations. Seriously, my only issue, which is funny to say only because it's a pretty overarching issue, the only thing stopping me from saying this is one of my favorite movies or a movie I'll watch over and over again is the stakes don't feel too high, which is weird because we essentially open the movie with both of our main characters, all of their friends, all of their crew are dead. Like, we open the movie with a bunch of death, a bunch of like death of close friends and close teammates and close team members of our main characters. The issue is we didn't know those people. We get a little bit of flashback for the human crew members later on, but there's never a true like gut-wrenching, oh my gosh, I don't have these people anymore. And even in the sense that Ryan Gosling's character is alone on the ship, and you should feel like, oh man, he's alone. He's in space. He lost like any of the people that are close to him. You don't really feel that from him. I don't feel enough despair, honestly. And maybe that's just not the type of movie this is. I am not saying I needed it to be Interstellar. It's certainly more The Martian than Interstellar. Also, the writer behind this movie, the writer of the books, I'm not sure who penned the screenplay or the adaptation, but the writer of this also wrote The Martian, and as with most adaptations, it's not a perfect one-to-one adaptation, so maybe in the book the stakes are higher. Maybe you feel that despair more, but ultimately I don't feel like our character ever truly hits rock bottom. I think plot-wise, they certainly hit rock bottom. There's a moment where, and if you haven't seen it, certainly go watch it. This is a great movie, and I'm going to score it really highly. Spoiler alert. I'm just talking specifically about the things that stop it from being a phenomenal movie for me. So there's a point where essentially for most of the movie, we have two main characters. They are the only two characters that are interacting or even able to interact with each other. So it's Ryan Gosling's character, the human astronaut who's not even really an astronaut, and then Rocky, the alien, who they're essentially trying to solve the same goal. They're trying to find out why their stars are dying. And there's a point where these two beings, these two best friends, they essentially become best friends, which is so good and so heartwarming and so lovely to see. They're all each other have. And at one point, Rocky, the alien, dies or questionably dies. And I remember sitting in the theater thinking like, okay, he might be dead. Like, this movie kills people. This movie killed all 20 or 24 of Rocky's crewmates, and it killed the other 4 or 5 of Ryan Gosling's crewmates. But I think because of the way that it did it, because it killed these characters that we had no attachment to, and the characters that we do grow attachments to don't seem to be that torn up about being alone and losing their crewmates. When Rocky dies, I'm like, do you think he could be actually dead? But that doesn't give me... It gives me despair because I love Rocky, and I'm like, oh no, Rocky. But it doesn't... I guess just the reaction to death and the reaction to negative circumstances in every other instance in the movie, it's just not heavy enough to where even in that moment, I'm like, oh, things will probably be okay. You know, when you're watching something, you're like, oh, things will probably be okay because up to this point, it has always been okay. Again, super weird because in this movie, it hasn't been okay. Again, a lot of death. We have flashbacks to crew members dying on the ground with big explosions before the mission embarks. And again, this, shifting back to the positives, this movie is, and what it is meant to be and what it is trying to be and succeeding at being, this movie is heartwarming. This movie is human. This movie is connection and I know I'm talking about a lot of negatives, but and I am going to go see it again and happily watch it. The easiest 2 hour and 40-minute movie you've ever watched because it makes you feel good. And there are stakes, there are problems, there are challenges, but it never is to that point of, again, just despair, of true rock bottom of movies like Interstellar, that I think you walk out of this movie with hope. I think you walk out of this movie with the idea that, you don't have to be like seeing Rocky and Ryan Gosling's character, who I can't remember his name, seeing them connect and seeing them bond in a very human way, even though one of them is not a human. It lets you walk away with, oh, you can connect with people, you can connect with beings, you can connect with creatures, even if they're not exactly the same as you. Without pontificating or going way too deep into that, that's something that I think is super important right now. Just seeing other people, seeing other beings, and even if they're different from you in some way, being like, hey, we're all here. I'm just trying to stop our stars from dying. We're all here trying to figure shit out. Maybe we could be friends. Maybe we could learn to communicate. Maybe we could learn to translate and understand what each other mean and what each other feel without it being this big thing. Because, in a different movie, Ryan Gosling shows up and he's like, rock alien, kills him. But that's not really Ryan Gosling's style. I told y'all this was going to be rambly. Bear with me. Doing kind of stream of consciousness, talking to the camera has its own challenges versus doing my usual scripted type stuff. I'm going to check on my notes. But yeah, I think the main point that I was making, I'm going to see it again. Like I said, I'm going to see it again. I'm going to happily watch it again. For one reason, I did not see it in IMAX. I would love to see this movie in 70mm IMAX, which I've never done before. But also there's an IMAX theater here in Birmingham. So I think I'm going to go see it again, take Kate, and watch it in IMAX. Also, side note, the tough part about IMAX is I am so used to, at this point, having the reclining seats with the heated seats and, it's a big cushion. The IMAX theater has very normal... Sorry, I was stretching. The IMAX theater has just normal movie theater seats, and not to be bougie, but I'm just a reclining seats guy now. But yes, ultimately, I think my biggest issue with the movie is that I don't feel that our characters ever truly hit rock bottom, despair, the darkest, what is that film term? The darkest night, the darkest moment of the night. I can't remember. I should know that kind of stuff. But yeah, aside from that, this movie is incredible. My final ranking out of 10 is going to be an 8.2 out of 10. Go see this movie. It is great. I probably shouldn't have harped on all the negatives so long, but that's the thing. The positives are easy to see and they're easy to feel, and you'll feel that when you go see it. So that is Project Hail Mary. Before we move on to the next segment, last night I watched Daredevil Born Again Season 2, Episode 5, and I have a lot to say about Daredevil Born Again. I'm gonna really hold back from doing that right now. I'll touch on a little bit of it. This episode was freaking great. A lot of people are saying that last week's episode is the best. I think this one is probably by far the best Daredevil Born Again episode that we've had so far, for a couple of reasons. One, they do a lot of flashbacks to Netflix Daredevil Season 1, and it is sick. Spoiler alert, they can still shoot gritty, dark, nice, deep color grades with a lot of creativity and style. Generally, that's not the Disney Plus look, and I would love to do... I'm getting ahead of myself. Essentially, they did a lot of flashbacks to Daredevil Season 1 on Netflix, and they tried to shoot it the same way. They de-aged Wilson Fisk and Vanessa. They brought that, green, dark, dingy color grade back. Even brought back a lot of the darker blacks, the thicker contrast, and it's beautiful. I would love to do a kind of a color grading comparison between the actual Daredevil Netflix Season 1 and their recreation in Born Again Season 2, Episode 5, but ultimately, I was giddy. Spoilers for this as well, but if you're a Daredevil fan, Wesley makes a comeback. Absolute crowd favorite, Wesley, Wilson Fisk's right-hand man. He makes a comeback, and I was hype as hell. I don't know the actor's name, but I absolutely should. But it was cool. Like, I was writing and making this outline while watching it, and I was like, I gotta stop. I'm done. I'm watching this. I'm focused. I'm locked in, because this feels like Daredevil season 1, and it feels nice. Again, I would love to do a color grading breakdown to see the differences. They're certainly using different cameras. There's certainly more light, more color fidelity in the newer stuff. And honestly, I saw a quick side-by-side, and it may look better. It may look better than Daredevil Season 1 on Netflix, which is interesting because a big complaint with Disney Plus and Daredevil specifically is that they're using a lot of haze. It's very washed out. It will be dark and saturated, but it'll still be like low contrast, lifted blacks, haze in the room. There's some scenes where I can literally see the haze like swirling in the room, which is fine and cool, but some of it is almost like you can see the tricks that they're doing. Whereas, and this is an issue with a lot of media, specifically Marvel and big budget blockbuster stuff lately. I'm sure you've heard other people talk about it, but cameras got a lot of dynamic range now. You can see deep into the shadows. You can see high into the highlights, and we're losing a lot of contrast. I think that, and a ton of creators are doing it, a lot of filmmakers are doing it, but a lot of people online are doing it. I think we need contrast, y'all. We need shadows. Let dark things be dark. Let the blacks clip. Let it be pure black. Let's go. But it was really interesting to see Disney, Marvel, Disney Plus version of that look, to see if so it's not that they can't do it, it's that maybe it just feels weird. A lot of that contrast and a lot of that darkness and depth comes from, at least from my opinion, comes from shooting a TV show. You're going fast, you're going quick, you don't have time to get perfect lighting, so you don't. So you let things look the way that they look. You lean into it. Again, especially for shows like Daredevil Season 1. You can watch from Season 1 to Season 2 and immediately see a difference and a quote-unquote quality increase. But sometimes I think that our high-level, high-dynamic range, high color fidelity cameras are stopping us from, they're giving us too good of a starting image that we then have to go and make worse, in the sense of film grain and film damage, and those things are added creatively all the time. A lot of colorists, a lot of shows add that look in, but one thing that I think has been missed a lot is adding in the lack of dynamic range, like shrinking the dynamic range that we see on screen to be more crunchy, to be more dramatic, to be, I mean, I was watching an episode of Castle versus an episode of The Rookie, two, what's that man's name? Two Nathan Fillion led shows. First of all, very different tones, very different shows, but in The Rookie, the newer one, you can see everything all the time. Like, even in a dark room, I can see all the way into the shadows. Like, I could tell you what's sitting on the nightstand. But in Castle, there are some close-up, like, mid-close-up shots of a face, and one side of the face will be lit, and the other side will be not dark. It will be completely black. Like, just the deepest, darkest blacks you've ever seen. I'm going on a color grading rant. All that to say, it was super cool to see them do the Daredevil look, the original look, and I think that they crushed it. I think if you put them side by side, it still wouldn't be as dirty, as crunchy as the Netflix one, but whoever made that decision, whoever's doing that, you could just keep doing it. You could just make the show look like that in general. Like, y'all, it was great. And along with that came just some really cool Daredevil Season 1 nostalgia. To move on from the look and the color and the Season 1 of it all, this episode, character-wise, was by far the heaviest hitting that we've had. There were a lot of flashbacks with Foggy, and essentially the crux of the episode is Matt Murdock has Poindexter, has Bullseye, and he's trying to save him. Bullseye's bleeding out. They're running from the ICE task force, basically, the anti-vigilante task force. They're running away from them, and the whole time Bullseye is like, hey, dude, I suck. You should just leave me here. Let me die. Like, we did it. I killed Vanessa. The scales are balanced. Just leave me here to die. Like, why are you saving me? You tried to kill me last season. And Matt is like, that's exactly why I'm trying to save you, because I slipped, because I broke my one rule, and I literally pushed you off a building and tried to kill you. So this whole time you have Matt trying to save Bullseye, trying to save Dex, but we're also flashing back to see Foggy, but we're also flashing back to kind of one of Matt and Foggy's, one of pre-Nelson and Murdoch's first cases. So they're working for this guy who is actually Foggy's childhood bully, and they're trying to get him to take a plea deal, but if he takes the plea deal, he's going to end up in jail, where Fisk's goons are just going to kill him. You know, the classic, like, I got a guy inside. They're going to make it look like he killed himself, kind of like that one guy with the list and the island. But Foggy essentially, and the whole time this guy's still being an asshole to Foggy. He's still calling him names, still doing that kind of like, yeah, I was your childhood bully thing. Foggy essentially find a get out of jail free card. They find a mistake that the court's made, and Foggy shows Matt, and he's like, hey, we can get this guy out. This guy who is a criminal, like, he did do crimes. And Matt is like, no, he's a criminal. He doesn't deserve to walk. Even, you know, like, this is the justice system. Let them take him. And honestly, like, let him be punished. And Foggy, who's talking about his enemy, this guy that tortured him as a child, is like, nah, dude, like, what about mercy? He literally is like, aren't you the Catholic one? So it's really interesting to see, you know, someone like Matt, who we always see struggle with, you know, kind of Catholic morality and not killing and doing things for the right reason. And then you have his friend who is ultimately at least shown to be secular, like, hey, Matt, like, it's about mercy. Like, we're here to help people. Nelson and Murdoch is about not just our future, but the future of the people we help. And I don't think I ever realized that Foggy is kind of Matt's moral center. There's a moment in the last season where he tells the Punisher, Frank, like, hey, we'll never be as good as Foggy. We could try every day, and we'll never be as good of a man as he was. And this was a really cool way to show, not tell that. And then you're flashing back to Matt and Dex in this really precarious situation where they're about to be caught. And Dex is like, dude, just leave me. Like, I'm a piece of shit. Let me die. I've killed so many people. And Matt, at a point, he's like, okay, I'm sorry. Like, I tried to save you. I tried to do the right thing, but I can't save you. We're both going to die. And then Matt has this one kind of final memory of Foggy, of him basically taking all the money that they had saved up for Nelson and Murdoch, their law firm, giving it to this childhood bully, getting him off out of jail and saying, hey, go create a new life, go run, go hide, because mercy is the right thing to do. And Matt remembers that, and he's like, nah, I'm saving Dex. He goes back in, he grabs him, he takes them back to their base where Karen, who hates Dex, is, and that's kind of the end of the episode. So I know that was a lot of yapping about that. How am I doing on time? Really good character episode. The visuals are so fun. If you watch Daredevil Netflix, go watch. This season has been great. I think in general, and I won't go too long on this, I think in general, and I'm sure you can hear it in my voice, we haven't hit the highs of Daredevil season 1 and season 3 from the original show. There are a lot of kind of MCU-isms, there are a lot of Marvel-isms, specifically with season 1 of Daredevil Born Again, where the production team changed halfway through. They kind of mushed two creative visions together because they felt like they had to in that situation. Yeah, Disney and Marvel and Star Wars are weird because they are ultimately trying to appeal to the broadest audiences for that money, you know, because you know what they say, mo money, mo problems. You can never have too many millions of dollars. Money over art. Hashtag Disney. But I forgot the point I was making. I guess Disney and Marvel and Star Wars are interesting because people like me, people that watch the shows, we overanalyze them so much, but they ultimately are made for general audiences. So I understand why they do so many things that annoy me, why they do so many Netflix streaming types things where they're like, here's the plot of the show, just in case you forgot, dumb audience. I hate that. I hate it. We're watching. We're paying attention, guys. I promise we're paying attention. If we're not paying attention, rewatchability. You don't have to restate the plot 100 times because your audience is on TikTok. Like, they can just watch it again. I think you should make your show for the people that are watching it, not for the people that are scrolling on their phones while they have it turned on. But yes, Daredevil Born Again, Season 5, Season 2, Episode 5. Nice. This is hard. This is really hard. Okay. We're rocking and rolling, though. I hope y'all are enjoying this. I hope I'm saying anything that's, like, valuable. Last quick thing before we finish up this segment. I'm also watching Maul Shadow Lord right now. I won't go too deep into the plot or anything like that, but pretty dang good show. I feel the need when Star Wars or Marvel is doing something good to shout them out for it. Visually, this show is freaking incredible. Arguably the best we've ever seen, the Clone Wars animation style. They've kind of taken that base layer and gotten really creative with it. They're doing some really fun things. I don't know exactly if they're doing matte paintings, but they're doing some matte painting-esque big wide shots. The lightsaber designs are really cool. Maul's lightsaber has kind of almost a Kylo Ren. It's like warping and fizzing, and when he swings it, I'm sure you've seen a YouTube short about this, but when he swings it, they have Sam Witwer, Darth Maul's voice actor, they have him screaming, and then they've edited into the lightsaber swing, so it's like, and you also hear like, that wasn't a very good noise, that sounded like fucking Dobby or something. But they have a very intense scream. There's a lot of emotion coming out of it, and they're doing some really cool character stuff with Darth Maul. Things that, okay, there's probably more Darth Maul Star Wars content than any other character, and when they announced it, I was like, really? Like, we're getting stuck. We're getting stuck here in the things that you've already done. But I think the difference this time around is, in the past, when we get stuck in certain eras of Star Wars, it feels like we're playing it safe. It feels like Disney, it feels a little bit of like choice by committee. Like, oh, Disney thinks that's what the audience wants to see. It's safe, it's proven, and then it doesn't really always go well. Kenobi, for example, Boba Fett, for example. Granted, those are just poorly, and I hate talking negatively about other people's art, but it's like those are poorly written shows. They're poorly executed. Versus something like Andor, which no one cared about or wanted, and it's maybe the best Star Wars and some of the best TV and some of the best entertainment media that I've ever seen. But Darth Maul, the cool thing about that, and what I've realized, is they're making that because Sam Witwer, because someone on the team is passionate about it. And that, I think I'm okay with being kind of the ultimate choice, the ultimate decider. Is like, yeah, if Sam Witwer is there, if he's working and doing voice acting and passionate, and he's like, I want to tell this story, I don't care if we've covered basically every other period of Darth Maul's life, I'm passionate about this story from a character perspective, from a storytelling perspective, then yes, absolutely, dude. Absolutely go make it. I hope that's the lesson that Disney Star Wars learns from this Maul show, is it's not like, oh, what are other proven characters that we know people like? It is who in this room is passionate? Who wants to make something? Who has an idea about a character or about a story and is like hype on it? Because Sam Witwer is hype on Darth Maul, and that is making this a good show. Ultimately, what I'll leave you with, without spoilers, is that this is not just, look, more Darth Maul. It certainly is more Darth Maul, but it's getting us deeper into his psyche. It's getting us deeper into his character. Kind of this character that has been alluded to, like, okay, who is he in Rebels? Who is he when he's dying in Obi-Wan's arms and saying, like, is he the chosen one? Avenge us. How did he get there? Does he really care? Is he really a good person? What's going on? And we're like already delving into that. So this is not just a look at this guy with a double-bladed lightsaber. This is a character study, and I'm really happy and surprised that I'm liking it as much as I am. So go check that out. I won't give Daredevil or Maul rankings because they're not over yet, but that's a lot of yapping for segment 1. I gotta move on. Okay, welcome to the Hot Stack Studios update, sponsored by Hot Stack Studios. Like I said, this will be an update for the studio, the physical studio, what we're setting up, the progress we're making, but also the business as a whole, clients we're getting, jobs and shoots I have going on, and just kind of what it's like building a production company, anything interesting that's happening lately. So, I dropped my pen. First up, I've said the word studio a lot. If you didn't know, Hot Stack recently got a physical location. I have an office, kind of half office, half studio. I'm sitting in it right now. I'd say it's probably, it's not massive. I'd say it's maybe like 350 square feet, decently high ceilings. I'd say these are like 13 to 15 foot ceilings. So there is space for this to be a studio and an office, which if you're watching the visual right now, this is my first time shooting in here. Check it out. We painted this wall. We've done a lot of stuff. So I'll give you kind of a quick run through. I won't harp on this too long because obviously you don't have any visual reference, but essentially it is a 100-year-old building, wood floor, interior brick with a bunch of windows. And my hope is to, one, have this as an office space for my desk, editing, ideating, creating storyboards and pre-production, stuff like that. But also to have it set up as a studio, as a place I can record at the base level this podcast and leave all of this lighting and camera set up to really lower the barrier for filming, but also for filming other YouTube videos, other talking head, and getting even past that, doing some creative photo shoots, some creative video shoots. Equipment wise, this past week I finally hung up the 4-roll backdrop hanger. So I have 4 paper backdrops and they're on like the little chains where you can roll them down. That's feeling really dope. We've gotten all the office stuff moved in here, and we've gotten all the office stuff moved in here, some furniture, we got a couch off Facebook Marketplace, and we're just kind of piecing it together. I would like the studio side of it to be nicely interior designed and just look cool and look like a nice place to hang out and film. And then as we do other specific creative shoots, kind of build up a library of props and of surfaces and of walls. I really want to build some flats, some other wall options, maybe a brick, maybe a wood paneling. I would love to get this to be very modular, very customizable, where you can shoot 2 different shoots in here. They look completely different and you have no idea that you're even in the same room. A big project that I've ordered most everything for, I just need to order the speed rail, is I'm going to do a lighting grid in the ceiling. So a big grid of speed rail pipes that I can just mount lights to, with it being, relatively small and housing my office, my big desk in here. I would like to get light stands off the floor, get tripods off the floor. But yeah, get light stands off the floor, get a lot of camera rigging off the floor so that we can do some set design, bring more furniture in here, just have more space for talent. I'm really trying to stretch the size of this place and the creativity and the ability that the location has to create things. So hopefully in the next 2 weeks, we'll get the lighting grid up. I need to call over to the speed rail, the pipe manufacturer, and get that priced. I'm a little scared that it's going to be like $300, $400, $500. And I've already spent a lot of money doing other things in the studio. Also, speaking of money, it is literally April 15th, so it's tax day. But yeah, overall, very sick to have a studio. Very sick to set up this podcast lighting yesterday and then look at it and be like, that's going to be here when I get back tomorrow. So ultimately very excited about lowering the barrier to entry, lowering the obstacles that come with, creating content and making things. Because even though this is what I do day to day, I'm doing it for clients, for people, for money. And it's still kind of difficult to sit down and do this for myself. That's something I'm really wanting to do more. Moving on from that, let's do a quick little jobs update. Things have been busy. It's been good. Speaking of the studio, since we've had this, I've only been in here like 4 or 5 days out of the last maybe 4 or 5 weeks. Because I've been on shoots. If you haven't talked to me about this before, a lot of my work is kind of split between what I would call hot stack studios work, direct to client, working with agencies, kind of running my own projects, doing social content creation for retainer clients, and then the other side of my income is being crewed out, being hired as a DP, a first AC, a swing, a grip, kind of just doing whatever on set. And those are normally the days that I'm out of the studio, that I'm gone all day, essentially. I'm not sitting down and editing. I'm not sitting down and planning. Those days are great because I just get to go, do my job, send an invoice, and be done with it. I'm not doing any like editing. I'm not doing a ton of post-production unless it is a color grading job. That's the main post-production type of work that I offer. I love doing a color grading job, but it's really nice to just go do a shoot day or a set day and then send an invoice and be done with it. Ultimately it's a lot less work and introduces a lot less opportunity for failure and procrastination than doing something like full-time production studio work. But I also love that because then the work is mine, and then I get to be involved with the client and the ideation, and I get to bring a lot more value that way. I think it's a really cool and a really good way to, bring my ways and my ideas and my thoughts on how to solve client problems to the table. So there are positives and negatives for both types of work. Yeah, jobs I've had lately. Last week I was in Orlando Wednesday through Friday with the guys from Cedar. We were filming kind of a big annual corporate event. It was really fun. My boy Preston, Delane, Chris. Those days are long, but ultimately they're not too terribly hard. It's just kind of a lot of running around, getting all the shots, hanging back until there's something else we need to film, and just being up early and going to bed late. I flew back Friday night while those guys finished the shoot because I had another shoot at 7 a.m. on Saturday. So one of my retainer clients, Millhouse Landscaping Company, they do this really cool, almost, I would call it like a interactive art installation. And what is that word that Madison says all the time? Oh my gosh. It's like a certain type of marketing. Active is the only word I can think, and maybe that is the word. Essentially, for the Masters, the big golf tournament, I'm sure you know what the Masters are. They go into two locations. They go into two locations of a local kind of sports bar and set either turf or real grass and a bunch of floral arrangements and a bunch of trees up in the bar, like literally outside on the patio, and inside the bar there's real grass on the ground. So Saturday morning I went and filmed that, and then yesterday put together a little edit for that for their socials. Side note, mainly for my memory, when they set it all up, like the walls are green, it's full of golf memorabilia and other sports memorabilia. There's real grass on the ground, and we're inside, and I'm looking and I'm like, I need to do a shoot in here. So I start talking to the owner. I'm like, hey, how long is this grass going to be here? I want to like film something in here, whether that be like a branded campaign, like a commercial campaign on spec for the Masters, or something, just something creative. The grass indoors is just a really fun look. And I told him, I was like, the way this is set up right now, if the Masters hired someone to do like a branded photo video shoot, they would want a location set designed like this, and they would spend $50, $60, $100,000 getting it to look like this. Meanwhile, we just made it like this for a different reason, just because that's what it looks like already. Ultimately, they took up the grass the next day because, of course, it's grass. It starts to, wilt, and they need to get their bar set up again and can't have grass everywhere. But my plan is my plan long term is to write something and be ready this time next year when they do it again. Ultimately, I guess I could come out of pocket and pay for the grass to be put down in that spot myself, but I'm not really in a coming out of pocket mood right now because I've been doing it a lot lately. But yeah, that was a cool thing. What else I've got going on? I do have a shoot tomorrow for Millhouse Landscaping Company. I'm going out to film a couple of their locations. I've been filming some of their projects over time, chronologically. So some of these projects I've gone out and filmed different stages of like breaking ground, doing the landscaping, doing the masonry, like laying bricks and sidewalks and walkways and paths and things like that, planting trees. So tomorrow I'm going to go around Lake Martin and go to a couple of their different locations. So that should be a long day. I think it's a 2-hour drive to the location, and then I'll be driving around there a little bit. So that will probably take up my whole day tomorrow, which is why I'm glad I'm getting to hang out here and talk with y'all. Honestly, I love shooting. I mean, shooting, DPing, capturing, I would say is my main skill, my main thing that I enjoy, but it has been so nice to actually be in office in the studio the past few days. But I'm just happy to be here. Otherwise, on the hot stack train there, and speaking of being in studio and being able to be here and not shooting, I've been doing a lot of working in the business. I really want to work on the business. There's a lot of kind of ground level hot stack stuff I want to figure out. I want to get just direction figured out. I want to have documents that outline roles and mission statements and really like what is hot stack? What are we doing? What are we making? Who is our perfect client? What am I aiming to create? Because I do that kind of stuff with my personal work all the time. I do that kind of stuff with YouTube. And I've always kind of treated hot stack as like, yeah, that's where I make money. That's my job. I'll take any production job that comes in. But now I'm starting to hold hot stack, you know, in a higher, I don't want to say higher light, a higher eye. I'm trying to treat it in a more serious way, not just for the sake of finances or being professional or anything like that. I mean, I've always treated it seriously in that sense, but in a creative way. I want Hotstack to have a creative heading, because if I don't, then I won't be able to get excited about it. And also, I want it to have an identity. I don't want Hotstack to just be, yeah, that's a place that makes videos, whatever you need. I don't want to be the Walmart of video production. I don't want to be the one size fits all. I do want to be able to appeal to a lot of different clients, and I want potential clients to know that, like, hey, I can come alongside you, and if it's a good fit, I can bring value to your business. And that doesn't necessarily matter what type of business you are. It's not the type of business or the type of industry that I'm talking about specializing or niching into. It is the creative philosophy and the services, the literal value that we're promising to bring. The things that I look at what other people are doing and what other clients are doing and being like, man, I really think that I could come in and help them. I think I could come in and be valuable to them. And that's one thing I'm learning too, running a company is, I mean, you can do this as a freelancer too. You can do this in any variation of production work, but it is not, I don't sell videos. And I'm sure, and you may have heard this is a good sentiment that I think is going around. I don't sell videos. I sell solutions. I sell marketing solutions. I sell building brand awareness. I sell meeting certain KPIs on signups or sales or logins or things like that. And one thing, and I sell having a cohesive visual brand, having a cohesive visual identity, and being able to communicate that identity, essentially being able to communicate all of the things that I'm saying I want to communicate about Hotstack. That's already what I'm helping my clients do, is communicate their identity, communicate their value, communicate their services in a specific way that is not just, let's take Battle Republic, for instance. They're a boutique gym. So ultimately their purpose is fitness. Their purpose is encouragement, as all gyms are, but Battle specifically capturing their identity, the greediness, the community, the specific workout, the specific, the way you feel when you go into a class, the way you feel when you leave, what they hope for their members, how often they want members to come in, and what they want their members to get out of that mentally and physically. That has been really fun doing that for Battle Republic and for other clients. I want to turn around and do that for Hotstack so that I know what we are, so that I know what our purpose is. And we're about to move on to the Q&A segment, and I'll let this kind of be a big answer for one of those one of the questions from my guy Blake was, what differences have you noticed between being a freelancer and owning a production company? And those are some of the differences. Those are some of the ways I'm wanting to differentiate it. To stay on that path, and let's just smoothly segue into the Q&A section right now. To stay on that path, I think the biggest difference is I'm looking at my client work at HotStack as this thing that I need to build, that I need to feed, that I need to think about and grow as a creative project that then goes and does other creative projects for other people. But ultimately, HotStack itself is a creative project. It needs input, it needs thought, it needs strategy for itself to then go out and give that to other people, give that to other companies, and give that to clients. Whereas I think the not opposite, but the contrary mindset as a freelancer. And again, there are plenty, you can do this whether you identify as a freelancer or a production company or whatever. I don't think those semantics are nearly as important these days. If anything, they're probably more important to your potential clients because when you're asking people to spend thousands of dollars, it helps for them to know why and what you're selling them, and to be very succinct and very, very value focused, instead of, kind of that freelancer mindset, at least for me, was like, yeah, I'll make you a video. Yeah. Pay me this couple $1,000 and I'll make you a video, and then I'll never think about you again. Or like, I'll come alongside you on a project basis. And it wasn't a black and white. It wasn't like that's what I did as a freelancer and now this is what I do as HotStack. It was a progression from treating freelance that way early on, and then kind of learning and seeing like, oh, people don't need videos per se. They need cohesiveness, they need strategy, they need story, they need to get a message across. And I think that is a good way to think, especially as a DP, director, cinematographer, whatever, someone who is so craft focused and visually focused and focused on the product. I think it's really helpful to step back and see like, hey, what are the real people that aren't in production? What do they need from you? What are they asking you for? And what are the things you're focusing on kind of out of ego or kind of out of self-interest, or not necessarily self-interest, but interested in doing things that seem fun to you or seem interesting to you? How can you focus a little less on that and a little more on what the person that you're helping needs, while also still making some cool shit and retaining that creative drive and retaining the love for it? Because ultimately, like, if I'm not loving it, I could be doing something else. I could have finished PA school and gone to be a physician's assistant and not loved that and been a lot better off financially. Also, that comes with its own, I'm not saying that would have been easy. Like, the longer I go into this and talk to friends and watch shows like The Pit, and again, talk to friends that have gone on to do that, I'm like, I was not cut out for that. I was not cut out for the 12-hour shifts in the hospital and dealing with that kind of stuff. But let's not get stuck on the heroics of medical professionals. All right, let's get into the main topic of today. Why start a podcast in 2026? What's the point? What are the benefits? And what are my hopes and goals for this show? So I've alluded to a lot of this in the episode already. I've talked about lowering the barrier to entry to creating. I've talked about consistency and genuineness and being unedited and a little bit more uncut, a little bit more raw and real, a little bit more stream of consciousness, still with an outline and still with the structure. And those are a lot of the big reasons that I'm wanting to start this show. I have made videos about this in the past. I'm sure I have made videos about this in the past, but I really struggle with consistency, and I think that comes down to overthinking. I will have ideas, and I'll be really hype on them, and then, you let them sit just long enough, you don't execute just long enough that you're like, is that really a good idea? Is that idea original? Haven't 100 people already made videos about that idea? Do I really have anything new to add? Do I have anything valuable to say? And then you come up with all these reasons not to talk about the thing you want to talk about. I think I've held content creation and media creation and making YouTube videos in way too high of a light over the years. It has always been a dream of mine. It has always been this thing that I wish I could break into and I wish I could do. And now I'm like, hang on, I'm a media professional. I'm a production professional. I don't have to wish I could do this. I can just do it. Like, I have the skills, I have the gear, I have the time, I have the knowledge. I have everything I need to be doing this, but I'm treating it like this big thing, this big idea. And the way that a show, like a podcast, like the Breakfast Buffet, comes in and kind of disseminates that is, this is the lowest possible production value thing that I can do. And it still feel valuable. It still feel interesting. The next lowest thing is just me talking to my Instagram story, which is also really dope. I think low production value, lo-fi content, as it's being called these days, is super valuable. And don't get me wrong, like, I want to make scripted stuff. I want to make narrative stuff. I want to make cleverly edited, well told, well shot, well lit visual stories. And I'm absolutely going to do that on this channel. The issue is, if that's all I'm doing, then it's going to take me way too long, and I'm going to constantly question myself. I'm going to constantly overthink. The great thing about this podcast is I can jump on here and just give you my thoughts about Project Hail Mary without feeling like I need to write a 30-minute video essay script about the plot and the pacing and the writing and the acting and the color. I mean, you hear me as I'm talking about those certain things. You hear me kind of going off onto, not tangents necessarily, but going deep into certain parts, and I could do that for every aspect of every thought I have about something. And if I sat down to script it, I would do that, and then I would feel the need to have B-roll and visuals and creative graphics because I want to make great things, because I see a lot of incredible things on the internet. I've been doing this long enough that I know, like, oh, that would go great here. This B-roll would go great here. But that doesn't make it any easier to go film it. It doesn't create time in between all the client shoots I'm doing to go and create those things. So ultimately, the heavy hitters is the Breakfast Buffet. This show is a place for me to be genuine and uncut and relatively unedited. It's a place for me to be a little softer with myself from a creative standpoint and just talk about my ideas. I know I keep saying stream of consciousness, and that kind of is what this is, but I've also spent 2 hours outlining this podcast in the evenings. I'm still putting thought into this. I'm still trying to make this entertainment, and I'm still trying to make this entertaining and informational and structured in a way that you, the audience, is enjoying it, and it's not literally just me rambling. I'm still trying to make it valuable to you, but ultimately I'm cutting myself off from overthinking. I'm cutting myself off from talking myself out of it. And if anything, I think being able to audition these types of content, like movie reviews or like AI, auditioning thought processes is a cool way for me to figure out, like, hey, do I want to talk about that? For example, back to AI. I've had this video idea, AI, the good, the bad, and the ugly, where I talk about my general feelings around AI, the things I hate, the things that, maybe I could get on board with, and I want it to be like this really dope, like 20-minute documentary style, heavily edited, heavy graphics. Obviously not really using AI because, as we'll get into in other videos and other things, like, I have certain hesitancies with it, which, again, tangent, that could solve a lot of my overthinking and under executing problems. But I have like ethical and moral and weird creative things that I need to then sit down and talk out, which gets us to kind of the third big reason of doing this podcast. So a hot stack in my work, it's me and it's Kate, my wife, and she does a lot of the producer, the logistical side of things, but she also has a full-time job. So she's not working on Hot Stack during the day. And even if she was, she would have too many things to do for me to talk creative with her. So all of my creative ideas just stay in my head or I write them out. And I need a sounding board. I need to talk my ideas out. Sometimes I go around the neighborhood, put my headphones on and turn a voice memo on and just talk to the voice memo, because that allows me to get my ideas out. And I think that this could become a really fun version of that, where I get to talk to y'all about my ideas. I get to audition a segment about AI, the good, the bad, and the ugly, where it's strictly just based on my thoughts. It's almost like a script brainstorm or a concept brainstorm where I get to sit and kind of talk out what I've been thinking. And then if I say it out loud and I'm like, oh, actually, no, I don't think that. Or if one of you have a comment that leads my thoughts into another place, it is essentially using, in certain ways, it is using this type of content, this platform, this video as a space to talk out my ideas and develop my ideas into a place where hopefully, after 1 or 2 or 3 times of me talking about it on the podcast, I really can get my thoughts down and make a big, like, high production value version with a similar message or a more succinct or more thought out message. Ultimately, it's low barrier to entry, it's low production effort, it's low chance of me not doing this. It's high chance of me being consistent. I can come in here once a week on Monday morning and sit here and yap to y'all for an hour. I can yap, y'all. I can do it. It is a place to be genuine. It's a place to be mostly unfiltered. It's a place to connect with you, the audience, on a level that doesn't really come through, in a way that is more Instagram story-esque, is more casual, and is less, highly scripted, high production, which, again, in those videos too, I want to come across as genuine and I want to open myself up for you to see. But it's way easier when I'm just sitting here talking to you than trying to think of a powerful and interesting and understandable, relatable way to get a message across through a story. It's also just kind of really easy to tell you how I'm feeling, but I don't want to do that in a narrative sense because I don't want to tell, don't show. Let me see. Yeah, that's pretty quick on the topic for today. I do feel like this is still going to be a relatively longer podcast. Longer than what? This is my first one. Longer than an hour. I think it's going to be about an hour, but I've kind of trickled in those reasonings throughout the episode. So for brevity's sake, for the sake of not repeating myself, that's why I'm starting a podcast. There are a lot of cool benefits to it. Like I've never been specifically interested in starting a podcast for the sake of like having a big podcast and that being the main thing I do. But now I'm starting to see it as kind of the foundation of all the creative stuff I make. Genuinely just because this is like my Monday morning creative meeting. I'm having that meeting with y'all for a lot of this. There are things I've been thinking about, we're going to talk about them. There are ideas I've had, we're going to talk about them. And this can be a cool place for that. And of course, that's not all it is. Like, I still really want to make this valuable for y'all. I'm going to have topics, the movie reviews, the segments. I'm going to have topics about filmmaking. I'm going to have topics about creativity. I'm going to have topics, honestly, that may go outside of production and go more into the business. The topic or the guest will always be the place where I'm really seeking to bring value to y'all. I'm seeking for you to be able to read the title and the thumbnail and be like, oh, that's information I want to know. So I don't want it to sound like I'm just coming on here and yapping and saying everything. I don't want it to sound like this is all for me. This is certainly still something I want to be entertaining and informational to you. Otherwise, I could just walk around with my headphones on and talk to my voice memos. But this is a lot more fun and it's a lot less lonely. So with all that said, let's move on to the question segment. We already covered one question from my boy Blake, but let me see what else I got from Instagram. Ooh, ask for more time. Okay. I'm going to go through these pretty quick because oh my gosh, we only have 12 minutes left on the card. So question number 1 from my girl Taylor. If I were a worm, would you still be my friend? Yes, Taylor, of course I would still be your friend if you were a worm. Let's see. Matthew says, when are we filming a duel video? Matthew has been on his Yu-Gi-Oh kick lately. I've downloaded Master Duel and I need to jump in. Matthew, we'll film a duel video when I can ever beat you in a single duel, because I'm not filming a video of you beating me 28 times in a row at Yu-Gi-Oh. Let's see. Blake, earlier we covered this, but how's traditional freelancing versus production company owning going? Blake, thanks dog. I hope you're doing well. Savannah says, what's the thing/moment that made you be like, wow, I want to do this as a profession? This could certainly be a longer video, and I made a couple videos about this, but I don't remember an exact moment where I was like, I want to do this. It was probably over the course of a few months, but here's my really quick abridged journey into production. So high school, made a lot of YouTube videos with my friends. We literally filmed on our iMac webcams that the school computers had. Fast forward to college, I was a UAB. I was on a pre-health, pre-physician's assistant track. But that was the year 2016, which is kind of when like Casey Neistat was already doing his thing. I was already watching a lot of Casey Neistat vlogs. But 2016 is around when Peter McKinnon, Matty Apoya, Sam Colder, all of these people coming out and being like, hey, this is how you do this with a camera. It was kind of the beginning of the end for gatekeeping production. I learned a lot about that. I started shooting stuff and I was like, oh, this looks really cool. It didn't. Looking back, it looked like shit. But it's okay. It's okay to start somewhere. Ultimately, I just really enjoyed making stuff, making videos specifically. Always loved photos, but video and motion really became the thing that I loved doing. And once I kind of saw that you could make a career with it, I think I was hooked. Honestly, I was looking yesterday, I was on the Explore page, and there's so many incredible people. There's so much incredible creative work. And I'm looking back and I'm like, this didn't exist in 2016. This didn't exist when I was starting. Like, you couldn't look and be like, yeah, look at all these people making stuff. It's really good and you can absolutely make money from it. But now, like, people are doing it. It's a real thing. And I'm not just talking about the like higher level, more traditional commercial production company stuff. We're in the wild west of what media creation and production even is. And I think that's really good ultimately, because while on one hand, it absolutely flares up my imposter syndrome to see my Explore page full of just next level incredible entertainment and media that people are making, it also shows me that like, hey, you can do it too. I know that might not specifically answer the question, Savannah, but that was my mindset, at least, in shifting into doing this full time. Last question from David, and this one's really interesting. He said, what would you make with a limitless budget? And at first my thought is like, okay, of course a feature. The thing is, I've never shot a narrative piece before, and I don't think it would be smart to start with an unlimited budget narrative piece. So I think with an unlimited budget, I would spend like $10,000 on doing a short film and then see how it goes and then make a feature film with that unlimited budget. So if I could stretch it across 2 projects, technically it could be the same project if the feature is based on the short film. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking. But wrapping this up into our last segment is the active projects or coming up next on Dragon Ball Z segment of the show. What's coming up next? YouTube video wise, I have a studio build out, a couple of like office build out, studio build out videos. I might shrink that into one big video. I'm not sure, but that will also include, or either I might do this in a separate video, or it might be included in that big office build out, a tour of the studio. So once I get the ceiling grid in, I'll finalize that. We're going to have Kate's birthday party in here in a couple of weeks. So I'll get a really nice kind of desk tour, studio tour, a lot of visuals to go with the stuff we talk about in the studio update today. So those are the projects I have on my mind right now. I also want to, again, shift into, I got to do something creative. I need to do a short film. I need to do a spec. I have a couple of things that I've been writing, but we're coming up on the end of this card. I have 4 minutes left on this SD, so I'm not going to break that down today, maybe next week. Y'all, thanks for hanging out here with me. I hope my first podcast was bearable. Again, I'm so used to having an outline and shooting a YouTube video and being able to take breaks and cuts and gather my thoughts and kind of deliver a chunk of information at a time rather than kind of flowing. And this was not super duper easy. I'm very interested to see how this comes out. But y'all, with all that said, if you have any questions, whether that be for the Q&A or any questions or thoughts or comments on anything I've said today, any advice for the podcast, any segments you'd like to see, drop that in the comments down below. I'll absolutely be sourcing the Q&A for next week from these comments. So let me know what you're thinking down there, or if you just want to say hi. Thanks for being here, y'all. You can find me at Dustin Harrelson on YouTube, at DustinH_DP on Instagram, and Hot Stack Studios on Instagram. I think that's all the little housekeeping stuff we have to do. If you enjoyed this, please hit the like button down below. You know, it's episode 1. We're starting something new, so we could use all the algorithm support that we can get. Y'all, thanks so much. I hope you enjoyed this. I'll see you next week.